I have a lot of things in my hands. I hope I can manage everything. So, yeah, let's dive in, no? Krishna McKenzie is my name, as you know. I like to take you on a journey from seed to plate. Some people think this is oh wow, what a concept, seed to plate. It's pretty basic. It's been happening for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So when I see these seeds, I see beautiful colors, and I see nutrition. I see the precursor to Annamaya Kosh. Annamaya Kosh is the body. And with the energy of that nutrition, and we feed this body, we have a Pranamaya Kosh. This is the concept of the envelopes of existence that you have in the Upanishad. And finally, from the Pranamaya Kosh, we have a Manamaya Kosh. And that gives rise to a mind, which gives rise to language. And language is the vehicle of culture. So when I see these seeds, I see culture. I see the colors of the culture. I see in Tamil Nadu the Bharatanatyam and the Carnatic music. I see a language that is 40,000 years old. I see the Sangam period poetry. And I see the Siddha tradition, the Ayurveda. And you know, in Tamil Nadu, even we have this Nadi Jadagam, no? In my Keswaran, there's this, you give you a thumbprint, they'll tell you your mother's name, your father's name, your brother's name, your sister has a problem, but don't worry, you'll get solved, and you're like, you know, but it's absolutely true, you know? It's absolutely true, and you start to see that this culture is so rich, it's like one banyan tree. And that culture has emerged because of these seeds. Because seeds were planted in nurseries, taken care of, and grown up. But in many cases, in our farm, of course, we also plant seeds in a nursery, but many seeds grow on their own. For example, Sundakai. Everyone knows Sundakai here. Sure, in Tamil we use Sundakai. In English, we call it turkey berry. So it's an edible weed. Now, everyone in the world kind of knows this, but the more you go C++, the less you're likely to eat Sundakai. Sundakai will eat in Granny's house. And then you also have things like Manatakali. Today we're doing Manatakali in our restaurant. Again, the seed has fallen, but it's not being planted. It falls of its own accord. And like that in our farm, we have so many plants that grow without effort. As you see, we have this tapestry of nutrition, and that tapestry is very much the colors of a culture, because that's what sustains Annamaya Kosh. You have the beautiful Sundakai. This is a very precious part of our community, the Sundakai, and yet it's a marginalized food. You know, some farmers, they hear what I'm talking about, they're like, oh, Krishna, I agree, you're so right, this is our culture, we're going to start selling the Sundakai, they go to the market, sell Sundakai, they're getting rupees. The Sundakai has no value anymore, you know. The traditional foods, they grow easily, they have less and less economic value, although they have what we call a nutritional value. Now, in Solitude, what we have done is through endless mulching. Mulching is the returning of organic matter to the soil. We've then created such a beautiful soil, or rather nature's created this amazing soil. And from this amazing soil, a food forest has emerged. Now, a food forest is probably the most expansive way you can explore this journey of seed to plate, seed to your plate. And when we see this food forest, we start to see that diversity is really a massive key in the food forest. And the diversity that's being shown is the characteristics of local food. So you have plants that grow easily, that have high medicinal value, that have no carbon footprint, that grow without much water. There's a lot of virtues in local food, like abundance and also non-exclusivity. If you take something like moringa here, you break off a stick, you plug it in the ground, it grows. It's available for everyone, beggar to the king.
can have the moringa kere, but only rich can have the pizza. So you start to see that this food forest is a very, very relevant, it's a very relevant way of exploring agriculture. And I think if we want to start to look at sustainability in our lives in relation to food and health, you have to change the way of doing agriculture. Because at the moment, agriculture is only about money. You plow the land, you put chemicals, maybe you plow again, you put your seed, you grow your plant. Nowadays, they're using black plastic. I don't know if you've seen any of these fields. Like 30 years ago, you never see that. Black plastic with the watermelon sticking out, It's crazy how anthropocentric we are in our relation to this most basic need. Now, back to the farm to plate or the seed to plate story. If you see something like the papaya, this is the papaya immature. Now, when you peel that papaya and grate it, you can make an amazing salad. If you fry it, you got people will think that's a carrot pudding, a side dish salad. Or if you make a halwa, the North Indians are all convinced it's gaja halwa. They're like, oh, gaja halwa, but it's actually green papaya. And then you can make soup, and people think it's chow chow, people think it's pumpkin. So to value these plants, right, that are not within the orbit of an industrialized agriculture. Industrialized agriculture in relation to vegetables means potatoes, carrots, cabbage, cauliflower, beetroot. You all know what those are, it's in your cupboard. But you ask your Kolopati will say these don't grow in Tamil Nadu. And yet we eat food that doesn't grow here. So where does our culture go? Whereas something like paprika is very diverse, very versatile, highly nutritious. It's a medicine. It grows without effort, uses less water. So this is a very beautiful example of a local food that can be used in seed to plate. This is another example. This is Kandari chili. This is also a weed, the Kandari chili or bird's eye chili. That means it grows without effort. I mean, I keep repeating this, but if you think about it, if we can do an agriculture that doesn't need chemicals, it doesn't need tractors, mechanization, many of the plants are growing of their own accord year after year. They're bringing income, they bring taste, but they also have a beautiful medicinal value. Surely that's virtue enough to explore that type of agriculture. But if you plow the land and you grow your 111 plant, this plant doesn't appear. This plant appears within a community, an ecosystem of local foods. Here's some more examples of local food. If you know that one there on the left, that's the bail fruit, Wilbaparam. So many Indians, they come to the farm every week, groups and groups and groups of people. And people now, they don't know what that is. That shows an erosion of cultural identity. Because if you say Ponangani to Tamil, there's a certain pride in that, which is beautiful. It's definitely part of the culture is the knowledge of identifying the plants, how to use them, their values, and that bail fruit is part of that culture as well. And yet, so many people have forgotten what the plant is and the fact that you can also eat the leaves. Of course, that's chiku, everyone knows that. This is the food forest, gets quite intense in there. We're harvesting all the time for our cafe. And I think that when you start to explore this treasure trove of local foods that are the foundation of this extraordinary culture here in India, in Tamil Nadu especially, you start to see that you have so many plants to use, and you're busy all the time making powders, making pickles, making jams or cooking for people. And you think, how can we get this value to the mainstream? So one of the possibilities is to start these small farms in corporate spaces. Imagine, you run a big computer company, that there's some land, you put drumstick, the moringa everywhere. And once a week that moringa goes on the menu. Simple as that, seed to plate. Once a week maybe Varatanda would be on the menu. Once a week maybe they would have, Onangani on the menu. But you start to utilize your space. You re-landscape your space from an ornamental sort of concept to an edible concept. And I could imagine that if we started to use space properly in schools, colleges such as this one, or any other college, or any other housing development, or corporate, computer corporate space, if we started to explore the possibility of using that space for growing food, then we could have a serious, growth, of well-being, a renaissance of well-being. So over the season, you have a lot of harvest. Sometimes it's spring onions and radishes and lady finger. Other times it's sour sop and cluster beans and even the palm fruit or the barupukere, which we use a lot. And this diversity is, I think, you start to perceive that the diversity of these local foods are really the thing that unites us. It's our lowest common denominator. It's the one thing that we'll both agree on. We'll have different opinions in music. Maybe someone likes J. Krishnamurti, I might like Sai Baba, and I'd say, Krishnamurti, what a fool. How do you like such a guy? You might get angry and beat me, or someone else is offended that I eat meat and they're vegan or vegetarian. People will fight for concepts, opinions, beliefs, ideas, and ideologies. But you put the good food between two people, have the moringa soup, everyone will be, this is good, So that's the sort of, that's the philosophy that we need to bring into the mainstream, that this is our Mother Earth, and these are obviously the foods that grow around us, and they're the foods that should be there in the mainstream. We're recently working with a major airline where you would book your flight, say Hyderabad, Chennai, Hyderabad, and on the flight there's no bread with cheddar cheese. There's an adai with the gungura, the kovil from the kuchiki, the rosella, and there's a bit of this. This is an Indian meal. It's not a corporate meal. It's an Indian meal, and those foods were sourced by local farmers in relation with that, that airline. And it's sort of like recognizing, you guys, farmers, just be yourself. Please grow local foods. Grow foods that are ancient and traditional to our culture. So there's a lot of value in that. Of course, the value is cultural. It's also health as well. We address diabetes and we address cancer and high blood pressure. All of these plants, they're valuable. They're all a medicine. As we say in Tamil, food is the medicine. And I think when you eat that food every day, you start to really, really have a hard time eating outside because it's so tasty. These are the type of juices we make. So that's sandapu with the nanari, and there's giloy, which is the nectar of immortality, made with ginger. And then we have other juices in turmeric and ice creams made with all the different food we make. Different chutneys. This is called vegan sushi. So it's with the rosella leaf, a little tamarind leaf, the hibiscus, and some fruits and vegetables. You wrap it up and you put it in the chutney. You eat it. It's raw food. Very very inspired way to try and explore how to use these little things that sort of get forgotten. So yeah, that's basically the journey we're on at Solitude, is recognizing these seeds. They're the precursor to a civilization. And when you leave the nature alone, stop interfering, she can produce these amazing food forests with so much diversity. Then if we dig into that culture to look at all this diversity and bring it to the plate and feed people, that is seed to plate. And the result of seed to plate is very much, apart from great food, is very much community. People will come together. If there's food, everyone comes together. If there's music, also people come together. Music is equally an adhesive within a society. Celebration is very much a part of this story. Just food in a functional way. You eat, you go to work, you log in, you get your paycheck, you go home. This is what the world has become. But actually, food is a celebration. We break bread and we eat together. So community is really, really a beautiful result of that. And we see that at Solitude, that education, eating together and community projects like this in the village, inspiring people to start work together, but also music and celebration are really they're the cherry on top of the plate of your dish, you know. And I think that's the end of the slides. This is of such relevance in this day and age. You know, you can't underestimate that. Food has become very poor in quality, and we no longer know where it's from, who grows it, how it grows. You know, how it's processed, stored, packed, transported. We're divorced from this what we call anamaya kosh. So to re-explore where your food comes from, starting from the seed, I would say is the most, you know, relevant thing that we can do in this day and age. And you can do it today. You have land, you have resources, you have people. It's something that can start to be introduced into each person's daily food habits. Thank you so much.